Have you ever felt just completely and utterly stuck? You're praying, you're believing, you feel like you're doing all the right things, but that breakthrough you're waiting for just isn't showing up? Well, what if the real reason for the delay is a lot closer and maybe a little more uncomfortable than you think?
It's the question that can really keep you up at night, right? You're putting in the work, you're doing your best, but it feels like something is holding you back. So, we're going to unpack a pretty powerful idea today, the possibility that the key isn't about waiting for something new to happen, but it's about finally dealing with something old. Okay, so let's just call this what it is, a warning. You know that little nudge you've been feeling, that quiet conviction in your gut that you just keep pushing aside? The whole argument here is that that specific thing is the very reason your blessing hasn't arrived yet.
Now, this is a fascinating way to look at it because the common thinking is, well, I just have to wait on God's timing. But what we're exploring here is a totally different idea that maybe, just maybe, delayed blessings are actually about our obedience to what we already know we're supposed to do.
So here's the crucial point. It's not that you aren't praying enough or that you don't have enough faith. The idea is that there's this quiet, hidden resistance deep inside you, a truth you keep kind of pushing down, and that this is silently blocking you from getting to your next level. So how does this resistance actually show up in real life? Look, this isn't about some huge, obvious, glaring sin. The real danger, according to this perspective, is hiding in the small things. The little areas of compromise that we all tend to justify and overlook.
And here's the core concept: partial obedience. It's when you do, like, most of what you're supposed to do. You've closed some of the wrong doors, but you left one just a little bit cracked open. You've let go of a bunch of bad habits, but you've held on to just one. And from a spiritual perspective, that's still considered disobedience.
And this just perfectly illustrates that disconnect, doesn't it? We tell ourselves, oh, it's such a small thing, or it's harmless really, or the classic, I'll deal with it later. But the perspective here is that what feels small to you is actually a huge test of faithfulness. It's not harmless at all. It's a silent blocker.
This verse from Luke is pretty much the foundation of this whole idea. It lays out a spiritual principle. How you handle the small stuff, the little instructions you're given, is what determines if you're actually ready for bigger responsibilities and bigger blessings. Being faithful in what seems insignificant is the very key that unlocks more. All right, so if that's the internal problem, what does it actually look like on the outside? Let's talk about the real-world consequence of this spiritual blockage, which is that feeling that you are just stuck in neutral, not moving forward. And here's the irony of it all. You might be asking for a new map, right? A new sign, some new direction for your life. But this perspective just asks a simple question. Did you follow the last direction you were given? Because you can't get to step 5 if you're still stubbornly refusing to take step 4. And this highlights a really critical difference. Just knowing what to do, or hearing the advice, or even feeling convicted about it, that's not enough. The real power is in the action. Being a hearer is passive. Being a doer, that's what actually creates change. And this is the bottom line right here. Getting more insight, more wisdom, more prophetic words, none of it matters one bit if you don't act on what you've already been shown. In fact, inaction on what you know, that's the very definition of stagnation. It's what keeps you stuck in the exact same place year after year.
Does any of this sound a little too familiar? I mean, these aren't just abstract ideas. They're real. These are what you could call silent blockers. That one habit you keep defending, the endless scrolling that just kills your focus, the relationship you know deep down you need to end, or that fear that just paralyzes you from making a move. These are the doors you have to close before any new ones can open.
Okay, so if the problem is inaction and this idea of partial obedience, then what's the solution? Well, the answer isn't just to try harder. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about the word surrender. This is a total game changer, this redefinition. Surrender isn't some wave of emotion or a big dramatic moment of tears. No, it's a practical, logical, and honestly, sometimes really difficult decision. It's about showing up in what you do differently, starting right now, today.
Just let that one sink in for a second. Prayer is absolutely essential. But according to this line of thinking, there are some things that only get unlocked through your active obedience. The moment you stop ignoring what you know and you actually do it, that's the moment the gears start to turn in your favor. So let's bring all of this together. Let's make it a practical challenge that you can't afford to ignore any longer. This is where the rubber meets the road.
The process is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. First, you have to be brutally honest with yourself and identify that one thing you know you're supposed to be doing or not doing. Second, you have to confront all the justifications and the excuses you've built around it. And third, and this is the most critical part, act. Not tomorrow, not next week, immediately.
And here is the main takeaway. You are not just a passive participant waiting for your breakthrough to fall out of the sky. It's a partnership. Your action, your decision to finally obey in that one specific area is the missing piece. It's what completes the circuit. And that leaves us with this final, very personal question. Forget about everything else for just a moment and ask yourself, what is that one thing? Because if this perspective is right, your future isn't waiting on some big miracle from heaven. It's waiting on a simple decision from you.